Okay, we'll have comments from visitors. Please come to the podium, give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Name is Anthony Thomas. Address is 706 Canterbury Drive, Fulton, 65251. And that's apartment D. I was reviewing the minutes, actually the last meeting, the streaming meeting. There was a topic that appeared to be all one-sided, so I wanted to come on the citizen side of the topic, and that's about the airport. All I'm going to do is throw some questions out. I know there won't be any answers, but I'm throwing these questions out so the board will think about this while they're making decisions about what they're going to do at the airport. One of the questions would be, how many of the people using the airport are citizens of Fulton? And I'm using citizens of Fulton because I did hear that in the streaming video. So it's how many citizens of Fulton is that airport supporting? It's been many years since there's been a cost increase. I think it was back to 2017, 18, 19, somewhere in that time period. Since then, utilities for the citizens of Fulton have increased. Water, electric. Does not impact what we should be charging to those that are renting space at the airport. There's services that that Fulton is providing out there. Isn't there been a cost of increase to those services? And if we've run that at a deficit, does that not impact the citizens of Fulton? Because that's taking money out of services that can come out to the citizens of Fulton. That's the only questions I have, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak?
My name is Dave Lorenz. I live at 5179 Chandler Road. I'm a tenant at the airport, Hangar 21. I wanted to share a business owner's perspective of living in this community. I know at least 7 business owners renting space at the airport. While they may not all reside in Fulton or Callaway County, their tax dollars and businesses help support the city and the county. I can only speak how my business supports the community. In addition to helping run our business, my wife has provided medical services in this community for over a decade and serves on multiple boards. I've lived in Fulton longer than I've lived anywhere else, so this is home to me. Since moving to Fulton, I've grown my home-based business from a sole proprietorship into an enterprise that covers 22 counties in Missouri and employs 51 people. In total, I own 3 businesses, and I'm a partner in 1 other. Our annual sales place us in the top 1% of small businesses in the country. I pay a lot of taxes. I'm very thankful to be living the American dream right here in Fulton. I escaped generational poverty. I've achieved a level of success that I never really imagined. Please understand that I chose to live in Callaway County. I didn't know a single soul when I moved here. The airport was one of the reasons why I chose to live in Fulton. To some of you, it might seem like you're catering to business owners, pilots, medical professionals, and industry leaders by not raising hangar rates. Allowing us to pay rates at break even isn't catering to us. It's not adding surplus to the general fund, I get that. But should it be when we're already paying more than the surrounding airports? There are more appropriate ways, in my opinion, to fund expansion at the airport. I enjoy being part of this community, but I can choose any community to call home. My presence in Fulton is not required for day-to-day operations. I could certainly move to Moberly. It would save me time and money. I could register my fleet in a more tax-friendly state or county. It would cost me nothing to move my fleet to a state that doesn't charge personal property taxes. Those taxes currently benefit Fulton and Callaway County. I would have preferred to remain anonymous, but I feel the need to make it clear the City of Fulton is not catering to me or my business. The City of Fulton benefits from me being here, living here, working here, raising a family here, and having my business here. I would caution that poor decisions might have a lasting impact on the airport and might not have the desired effect you're looking for. Tenants of the airport are not asking for a free ride. We enjoy being able to rent hangars for a fair rate. The question is, what is fair? Is it fair to pay exponentially higher rates than the surrounding communities? In summary, money goes where it's best treated. It might not go all at one time, with $20 here, $200 there, a couple thousand over there. That all starts to be real money. And taking it someplace where it might be treated better becomes a lot more inviting. I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening. My name is Steve Windling, resident, or my business address is at 510 East Green Meadows Road in Columbia, 65201. I also reside in Columbia, but I do quite a few things in Callaway County and have for years. At one time, I used to run McIntyre's nursery. When it was the greenhouses there, I rented them from Harry McIntyre. None of you probably even knew him, but he was a dandy. I'd like to just point out a couple of things. The airport's looking for ways to increase revenue. And as a member of the now non-existent Airport Advisory Board, I'd like to make council aware that there's a fuel sales increase, and the way that was managed came out of a meeting that was born out of an advisory board meeting, which was designed to keep the price arranged a little bit higher than other surrounding airports, but to be able to be a few pennies under because of catching the cross traffic. And the last 3 years, I believe the sales, the revenue, and the quantity of fuel has increased. Another idea that we had that came out of the advisory board was that the airplanes that are placed there should be paying property tax in Callaway County. Mine had been going to Boone County for several years, and I didn't think it was right that I had my airplane here and not pay the property tax on it. So that was another thing that we'd done. And the advisory board is a much needed entity than the people that are aviation buffs as well as city personnel. And generally the buffs want to see the airport grow and prosper. It's not about a personal item and entity that I want this or I want that. It's for the overall growth of the community. So I would ask you to please give consideration to not only retaining but actually making it an advisory board at the Fulton Hensley Airport. And then on a second thing, and I'll go fast, no more 3 minutes of cranking, but I rented a hangar here in Fulton since the early 2000s. And for the last couple of years, I've personally been trying to enter into a land lease with the city of Fulton regarding an existing hangar. And I've got some pictures I'll pass out for you to look at. But the existing hangar that I wanted in mind is, I believe it turns 80 years old this year. And it's showing a lot of wear and tear, and it's in really disrepair, actually. And my desire to do a land lease instead of a rent was because I was going to invest a lot of money in an existing space in order to create a much more desirable hangar rather than 80-year-old tin box. And the reason I chose Hangar 10 specifically was because the location is ideal to have direct access to the parking lot because of our customer base that we were planning on having there. And it's also on the side of the airport. It's designated in the long-term plan as being for commercial use. And so...
Thank you, sir. Your time is up.
Just one more minute.
What?
Just 1 minute?
We'll let you go a little bit longer.
Okay, thanks. I'll make it quick. Because the whole intent was to create a charter service here at the Fulton Airport. And that's why we were trying to enter into a long-term lease. And as a business owner, I was surprised the city said they weren't going to do any more long-term leases. And I went through city engineer, then through Courtney, then city attorney, and thought we had things going, but it turned out it didn't work out. But I wanted to just say that, it's to have something that's moving forward. I own several businesses myself, and
I want to say I apologize for having to cancel our meeting. I was in the emergency room that day, and so I had to cancel several meetings. But I want to set up another meeting with you, and
I'd like that, Mayor.
and I think you have a business partner, you
I
said?
do, yes.
Possibly?
Yes, I do.
And so I think we can set up a meeting and work something out.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay.
I really do. Is it all right if I pass these pictures out just so?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I'm sorry? No, hangar 10. Yes. I'm sorry, I should have labeled it.
Okay, is there anyone else that wants to speak?
My name's Ryan DeLashmud. I live at 3405 County Road 328 here in Fulton. I wanted to thank the council up here last meeting for trying to make an amendment to the proposal and basically getting it killed, brought up this meeting. It looks like the current bill is at around 10% increase, I believe is what it showed, which I appreciate y'all recognizing some changes need to be made. The powers that be recognized something need to be done. But I think there's a bigger question at hand is, in that bill, the language states about the CPI up to 5% per year. But I read that as it's automatic, up to 5%. There was language last meeting that stated that it would be discussed. Well, that's in direct conflict with a bill. If it's written, what's the real language in it? I mean, I think there needs to be some clarity, either amended or whatever. But if we're really in a deficit, is 10% increase going to fix it? When you look at the airport, look at the monies that have been there for the past, back to 21, until they put in the depreciation, it's in the black. So what's this $200,000 depreciation that's on the expense side? What is that going towards? What is being depreciated? The last real money spent was on the hangars at a cost of the city of $275,000, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, $200,000 a year. What are we depreciating? I would love if one of y'all could bring the CFO up here. Maybe he could explain some of them numbers where people like me could understand them. I'm all for a rate increase if it's truly justified, but what is justified and what does that need to be? And I would like to thank y'all for listening to us, and a lot better job of snow removal the last week. It was noticeably better. So thank y'all.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wish to speak?
Don't you dare start that clock on me. I gotta say something. Greg Hayes, I mean, the last time he was here, I mean, there was times that he couldn't sleep at night, when I was here before. I mean, I kept him up all night. It was terrible. Hey guys, I don't know why I'm here. Everybody here knows me. I am part of the airport group. They're good. They're a good bunch. They're really good. I'm lucky to know them, actually. I wanted to ask anybody on the council not administration, but a council, know the history of the airport leases. My question is, do you guys know, as you leave or you increase the revenue on the leases by 20%, do you know who at the airport you're affecting there? Could you anybody give me a name? Anybody know? Well, guys, I'm the only guy that's got a lease out there. So I'm the face you get to look at today. I'm the only guy that's got an airport hangar out there, and it is the nicest structure out there. Okay, I apologize, guys, you don't have this, what I got, I'm sorry. But it's the nicest one out there, and I'm pretty proud of it. And when I built it, I got a lease on it, and I thought that, you know, when I leased it, they wouldn't raise the price on me, but they did. I think a couple of years ago they did. I didn't say much. I thought that, well. But then under the lease agreement now, wanted to raise it 20%. Now, I will tell you something else just so you kind of know what I do. I got about 60 rentals in Fulton, and I would never raise anybody's rent 20%, okay? But now, I mean, if you're spending somebody else's money, you could do that, but I wouldn't. I got renters that I don't ever raise their rent at all. But you can also look at Huey Properties, and you'll find out nobody has anything bad about, say, Huey Properties, okay? But I raise maybe 3%, but I do that because I get bumped up on taxes and insurance, so I try to cover that cost. And I do have people that's been renting from me for over 35 years. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is for you to think about raising, I want to give you a little history of the leases. So you probably don't know anything about airport leases. Well, my lease, Jerry Danhuser was the first one to get a lease here. And as a matter of fact, they never did raise Jerry's lease. He signed a lease, and they gave him that lease for 25 years. And at the end of that lease, he gave that building back to the city, okay? And invariably, Kyle Brenner's not here, but he could tell you that airplane building for a house an airplane today will cost the city $200,000 for a bay for one airplane. Well, my buildings would have, if based on that value, my building would have an easy value of $400,000. And my hangar's heated and air conditioned, by the way. But the big picture here is that when my lease is up, and in 10 years now, 15 years now, when my lease is up, I'm going to give that structure back to the city. It will become the city's property, just like the other three buildings. Ben Trout is another one. I built his hangar, by the way. Built Ben Trout. I built his hangar, and we never raised his price. Never raised his yearly lease price. Okay. I will tell you that my lease fee for my hangar was more than anybody ever paid, on a per square foot basis for my lease agreement. And Jerry Daniels, we never raised his price on his lease. And the other one was Harmon Dickerson. He built a hangar out there. We never raised his price either. But I can be the first guy you all do that to, because Courtney, she loves me, and she can kind of make that happen. I love you. So what I'm saying to you, I want to say it one more time, the big picture is, and I think you all know inflation is going to incur. And when I'm done with my building, I'm giving it back to the city. It's yours. And I would rather take and build more buildings for our airport. And I'd like to, we were in the process of building more hangars years ago when I was involved in the council, and Dr. McCall was on the council, and Wayne Shannon was on the council. And I really would like to have seen 3 more buildings out there, 30 more people, or 36 more people, bringing us in another $100,000 a year. When I look at that airport, you know, I would always rather spend the money a little differently. I would like to spend money out at the airport when it makes most sense for our airport. And I can tell you, I wasn't really too crazy about spending $1.5 million on lights. And if anybody had to spend their money, $1.5 million on lights at the airport, and those lights out there on that new runway, north-south runway, they weren't that old, okay? I've got a story for you. Don't turn me off now. This is going to be real quick. I'll give you my opinion.
You're way over already,
one more little thing I want to say. Everybody wants to badmouth the airport. So every year we get $150,000. Last year we got $300,000. We don't get that money from the people of Fulton. We don't get that from the people that live here. We get that from the federal government. That's based on the amount of fuel tax you pay when you go and fly in an airplane somewhere. We get a pittance here. We just get a smidgen. So we got $300 last year, and we may get another $300 on a grant. So over a 10-year period, the federal government gives us $1.5 million. It's free money. So they throw a balance sheet out in front of me after 40 years, and I've been here 40 years. Since 1981, I've been involved in every subdivision that's been put in this town. I put the fuel system at the airport. I built 3 hangars out at the airport. I can't stand here and tell you all the crap I've done in Fulton and how many battles me and guys like Greg Hayes have fought. But I will tell you that at the airport, over a 40-year period, That's $6 million. So if you put that on the balance sheet, throw that out in front of me and say, look at what the airport's costing our city, well, yeah, anybody would say, well, the airport's breaking us. That's not the case. That money is free money, and if we could spend that money a little bit more wisely, we could do more things for the airport that'll make Fulton more money, okay? So with that, I want to say, Mayor, you still got something on your arm?
No, I got it off.
I was down in Florida, been gone for about 6 weeks, and I looked, I was bored, and I watched the council meeting. I said, oh, he's been back in the whiskey bottle again, and I.
Now I'm gonna have to have my shoulder replaced.
As I end it, the reason why I'm here, because I kind of got off track. I'm having a lot of fun. Whatever you guys decide to do, I won't be mad at you. I stay mad for a little while, but it doesn't pay to stay mad long. But I don't really think that you guys need to raise my rates at all. At the end of the day, I'm not costing you a dime. I'm renting the ground from you, and at the end of the day, at the end of my lease, I'm giving you a great product back. And so I don't think you know what goes on at the airport, but I'd like to see more airport leases happen. I'd like to see more people building hangars out there. And I think we do that, control it. I think we need to have a design criteria so that we build these buildings so that they'll be great buildings at the end of that lease, and you get a good product back. And so with that said, thanks for listening to me. And good to see y'all.
Thank you, Andy. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, thanks a lot for getting the time to speak with you and the council. I need more than 3 minutes. Could I have 3 hours? No, probably not. My name's A.J. Stryker. I've been a resident of the Kingdom since 1980. Moved here with my wife and 2 daughters. We live at 1231 Branch Road, Holt Summit, Missouri. I built a small house there on the copper-infested ridge there, 2 miles east of Holt Summit. I've been hanging around the Elton Inslee Memorial Airport since 1980, and even before then, I'd fly in there on the duties that I had during my tenure with the Highway Patrol as a patrol pilot. I had 25 years doing that, about 3 years on the interstate as a boy trooper. I moved here to fly the new helicopter we was to take possession of, and I think that was in '79. My mind fades me now. We assisted the Med Center in their medevacs before they got the fancy stuff in our fixed wings and helicopter. I've been involved in airborne law enforcement for over 25 years. I've helped many sheriffs, including this county sheriffs and all over the state, to look for marijuana.
I have to say I flew with you many times.
I'd like to start a business now, sir. I know how to find it. So.
We got shot at once, I remember.
I'm sorry, sir.
I said you and I were flying and we got shot at once, down north of High Hill.
I'm sorry, sir. I nearly bought the farm, so to speak, in a bank robbery out of Ashland where they killed the bank president. The chase took us over east on 94. The chase ended on Highway D, just north of 94. I nearly died in the helicopter with 2 other of my brothers in blue.
Yes, I was there that day too.
I and the president have two things in common. I had 4 double-aught buck pellets ring my head. And when I had the patrol or the highway department photographer take my picture in the helicopter, she said, "AJ, move your head forward a little bit." I'd move it. She said, "Well, move it back a little bit." I moved it back. She got real quiet. There were 4 pellets that rang my head. She said, "AJ, I can only get 3." I believe we had another person in that helicopter with us that day. Of course, one of the troopers told me, said, "Well, I know why that happened, AJ."
Thank you, sir. Your 3 minutes is up.
He said, one went through one ear and out the other. Well, that wasn't right, because I was looking right down the 12-gauge shotgun when he set it off. Am I out of time already? Okay. I'll finish up with this. You've got a jewel out here 4 miles east of town, west of town. I've flown all over the state, and I've been in probably every airport in every county in the state over the 25 years of airborne law enforcement. This airport, and thank you so much for supporting us with the monies that you put in with the government grants to help us have runways, lights, and things. But we could fill another 3 rows of hangars out there if they were built. There's a hangar list now waiting for aircraft. You got 2 airports in Callaway County. Jeff City Municipal Airport, Memorial Airport, which I flew out 25 years. Of course, they have all the state agencies there, and they got multi-billionaires there to help support that airport. I really think, sir, that if you would consider, and I've been around that airport now since 1980, seen some changes, but not that many, to look at it seriously about jet traffic. We need another 1,000 foot of runway on 1836. Jet fuel. We have a great maintenance operation there now with Ted Myers and his wife Nicole and Ted. And I really think that the Fulton Airport could really be a great place. You're 10 miles from Columbia, you're 16 miles from Jeff City. So thank you for listening to me. I thank God I'm still standing here. He has given me several passes in my life. And I thank God for it. He must have me around for some reason or another. I don't know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no one else, we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda, which is the council meeting minutes from January the 28th and February the 11th.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Very good. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll now have the presentation of the DOA report.
Thank you,
Director?
Mayor. Thank you very much. So January was a busy month here at the City of Fulton. We had a lot of new processes that kicked off and a lot of information provided in your report. One thing as a side item that I did want to do, Mr. Huey, you never cease to amaze me with your introductions. They're just top notch. It's great. I do want to take an opportunity, though, and introduce Greg Hayes formally to the City Council and those of you here. So, Greg, do you want to come up? And Greg was formerly the city engineer for the City of Fulton back from 2004 to 2015. We're really thankful to have him back. And I know that his expertise on our city team and for this community is already being greatly appreciated. It's paying dividends, but go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I just want to thank the council and in particular Courtney Doyle for inviting me back to work for the city. When I left the city, you always think the grass is greener on the other side. And I thought maybe I wanted to try myself at, private ownership, entrepreneurship type stuff. And I found out that it's hard work. I know you guys that are, in that type of business will find out after a little while it's hard work. It's more than just a simple 40-hour-a-week job. And I realized everything I missed working for the staff that we had here at Fulton. And when Mr. Bremer called me and he was talking to me about his new career and venture, and then Mr. Dunlap called me, and finally Ms. Doyle called me, and I was just elated at that time. I am just really thrilled to be back. She's already pressured me with you think you want this job, and yes, I do. I want the challenges that it provides. And some of these things I've already addressed once before in my go-around. I'm willing to take those tasks at hand again. Kyle's done a fantastic job with Fulton during my absence. It's amazing how he's been working the grant and the grant systems that are out there today, and how you guys have supported him with the funding to make all those improvements happen in and around the community. So, any questions? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
So many
Thank you, Greg.
jokesters this evening. I love that. Said so many jokesters this evening. With that being said, you all have a copy of the report in front of you. If you have any questions, staff is here. We're able to answer those questions for you. So I will turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Councilman West.
Well, I really don't, there wasn't an engineering report, which I guess is because we were in transition and we didn't get anything from the Parks and Rec, so I would hope that we would see something in upcoming reports.
We can get those to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Move for approval or acceptance.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll now have the presentation of the financial statement.
Dustin Doherty, City of Fulton CFO. City of Fulton has recorded 12 months of sales tax in 2024. Collections are up 0.9% from 2023. Use tax is up 9.4% from 2023. No sales tax was recorded in January 2025. Did you have any questions on the financial report? What's that? Not much.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to approve the financial statement?
Second?
Very good. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the financial statement, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have any unfinished business tonight, nor do we have new business. We'll move on to council concerns. Councilman Henchy.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I have no concerns. The Public Safety Committee will be this Thursday, the 27th at 17:30. There has been no Public Safety Commission meetings since the last meeting. I'm done.
Councilman West.
Okay, the Fair Housing Board Human Rights Commission has not met. That leads into the Fair Housing Poster Contest. Starts March 1st, but is actually already ready to start through April 4th. It's for children in kindergarten through 5th grade. And the theme is Together We Build a Neighborhood. And on March the 21st, I think that's a Friday, at John C. Harris Community Center from 3 to 5 p.m., there's going to be like an event where the children can come in and there'll be supplies there that they can make their posters if they can't do it otherwise. We sent the flyers to all the public schools, the private schools in town. So hoping we'll get a lot of entries and make it difficult to judge and pick out some winners. So, again, that's kindergarten through 5th grade. And I have no concerns at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Reclus?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm having trouble with that. The Public Safety Commission, as Mr. Henshaw said, will be meeting this Thursday. Haven't had a meeting in a month. I just want to thank everyone who's been here tonight, came tonight, to voice their opinion and share their thoughts on the subjects of the airport. And thank you again, I appreciate it, and no other concerns right now.
Thank you. Councilman Stone?
Yes, the Historic Preservation Commission's next meeting is Monday, March the 17th at 1 p.m. It'll be in the council's executive conference room. Again, as always, all citizens, administration, and council persons are invited to attend the Historic Preservation Commission at any time. And I don't have any concerns this evening.
Very well, thank you. Councilman Luther?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Some appreciation. I'm starting to see even more progress on the crosswalks. That was really afforded to us through use of grants that we received. Saw the one at Bartley. I almost pulled over just to push the button to see if it worked. I'm so excited. And really, this all stems back even from personal items before I got on council, where my son almost got hit by a car, and I had to pull him out of the street before a car hit him because people just don't pay attention. So that's really what some of these and other citizens bringing up those similar ideas helped to drive this project, which it's very exciting to see that nearing completion for sure. And also something else I realized the other day, like most people, I do probably too much online shopping, especially at night on the weekends. So I typically run out of recycling room in the blue recycling carts, right? I did find out we do have a surplus of recycling carts, so you can get more than one. They're fairly inexpensive, a couple dollars. So I now have 2.
I've had 2 for 2 years.
And they're already full, and thankfully they come tomorrow to pick it up, but that is a very amazing benefit, and it still helps the environment too. So please, if you want another recycling cart or don't have one, I highly recommend it. That's all I got. Thank you. Oh, and again, echo appreciation, all members from the support the airport and voice the concerns, but again, we need all the information we can so we can best
Thank you. Councilman Combs?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The Planning and Zoning Commission did meet tonight to talk about the rezoning of the piece of property that used to hold the old rock barn out off O or 2nd Street, whatever you want to call that. So that will be coming up to discuss at a future council meeting. And outside of that, I have no concerns tonight.
Thank you. Councilwoman Nelson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The Utility Board did meet. As everybody knows, we have had some recent cold weather events within our city. This has caused meters to be read late. It has also caused people's utility bills to go up. So the Utility Board was discussing how we could help our residents and our citizens, the financial impact that it has on them, and make it a little bit easier. And so the recommendation was to waive shutoffs and late fees for 4 weeks to give everybody a chance to kind of catch up on those bills. Again, we know it's impactful with the cold temperatures that we've had, more heat that's being used. So we wanted to give everybody a little bit of a grace period to try to catch up on their bills, and knowing too that it was somewhat on us because we weren't able to read those meters on time. So we did want to give that grace period of that 4 weeks for everybody to catch up. And if there's anybody that needs assistance, please call the city. You know, we're always willing to try to help where we can and give the best information that we can. So call our utility department. They're always willing to answer any questions that you have. And then in addition, the shared power project is moving forward. And I look forward to more discussions on that in the future. And I have no concerns.
Very well, thank you. I have a few things. Number one, the Callaway Head Start Director, Michelle Payne, has sent me a letter, and they're having their 100-man lunch on Thursday, April the 10th, from 11 to 12:30. And if you've never been to that, that's pretty neat. All the children are there, and we all eat together, and we eat with the children and read for them, and just get to interact with those kids at the Head Start. The other thing that I have was, and I call him Captain, Reverend Jackson, is being, let's see, that is it's tomorrow night at it's at the Missouri State Capitol. I think they're going to do that. They're going to recognize him for his years of service, not only at the with the Highway Patrol, but also as Department of Public Safety Director for several years as well. So,
Mr. Mayor, that's
evening.
tomorrow, the 26th?
What?
Tomorrow, the 26th?
Yeah. I've got a flyer here that you can look at. So that's pretty special. I worked with him for many years, and we became good friends, and so I'm glad to see him recognized. All right, we'll move on to.
Mr. Mayor, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may, just to follow on Councilwoman Nelson's comments, CMCA and SERVE in our community also have utility assistance programs, and people are invited to call them at any time, not just during the winter, but any time that they need assistance. There are dedicated funding sources through CMCA and SERVE.
Thank you.
And I'll just clarify a little bit further. We will have some information going out in email, on social media, and through our normal communication avenues as well in the next 24 to 48 hours. As Councilwoman Nelson indicated, that will be for the February billing. So we will have a written statement and some additional guidance for everyone. That way they know what to expect.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to piggyback on that as well. You can also sign up for levelized billing, and then that you don't take a big spike all at once. It gets, they average out what you did last year, and then at the end of the year, you don't have to catch up if you're behind. It just gets levelized into the next year. So it's a real good budgeting tool, so you're not hit all of a sudden with a big utility bill. So we'd like to encourage that as well to our citizens.
Okay, thank you. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? That's fine. Okay, we'll move on to resolutions. Councilman Stone, would you read Resolution 3573, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 3573, T-Mobile's Hometown Grant. A resolution of the City of Fulton, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to file and sign all necessary documents in relation to an application for the T-Mobile Hometown Grant for Carver Park improvements. I make a motion that we pass Resolution 3573 at tonight's meeting.
Second?
Very well. Any discussion on this?
Just to mention it out loud, this is a $50,000 grant that we're going to be applying for, and it's a no-match grant.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yippee.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very well. Councilman Combs, will you read, please, Resolution 3574, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 3574, Amendment 1, Phase 1B, Services, Wastewater Treatment Plant B&R Improvements. A resolution authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Fulton, Missouri to execute all necessary documents in relation to an amendment for the Phase 1B services associated with the City of Fulton's wastewater treatment plant biological nutrient removal improvements project between the City of Fulton, Missouri and Burns and McDonnell of Kansas City, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to pass Resolution 3574 at tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Discussion?
I'd like a little more clarification on what this is all about. I mean, I don't know, maybe I've missed some, but, what's the long-term plan here?
Yeah. Daryl,
And
do you
how much are we
want to,
talking, how much money are we talking about
Sure.
overall?
Daryl, do you want to come down?
You can look at it as like it's in three parts. The first part we've completed with DNR, and we got the state revolving loan paperwork and everything in, and the preliminary design talk with DNR, and everybody seems to be on board. This is the next section of it. This is where the designs and all start coming in and are developed in this section here and worked with DNR. The third part is actually the construction, because this is a design build.
Okay,
So this is the second part. This will take us to where we're ready to actually meet with the contractors and start the
what kind
final
of
part.
total cost are we talking about?
The total plant cost is estimated to be $6 million.
Say what?
$6 million.
6 million? So that'll affect our sewer rates.
We're looking at that now, but we have some monies left over from the previous expansion done in.
We have additional bonding capacity still available, and then we've also submitted that additional SRF grant
Yeah.
and loan
Okay.
application.
I mean, is there any chance that, I mean, is this coming down from EPA and DNR? Is that what's going on here?
Yes, it's the next phase from when we started in 14.
Yeah, it's been a while back.
If you remember back then, we upgraded the plant.
Right.
The stream would be studied again to see if it had recovered.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it didn't recover totally.
Okay.
It is better, but it did not recover.
Okay.
So this is the next phase of restoring that stream.
At one point, I think that was like $20 million, if memory serves, altogether.
It started
Was
out,
the original estimate or something like that, 20 or 30?
when the EPA started with us, it was like 60 million.
60, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Even worse.
And then we came back and did, I believe, like a $9 million one.
Okay.
That got us to this phase.
Okay, and I remember Congressman Lukemeyer getting involved.
Yes. Yes, Congressman was.
This is continuation of all that, okay.
Yeah, so this one's actually what propels us into the design stages of it.
Okay,
So,
all right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thanks, Daryl.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to ordinances, first reading. Councilman Luther, would you read bill number 1744, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bill number 1744, Schedule of Fees and Charges Rate Book amended for Parks and Rec. An ordinance amending the 2025 Schedule of Fees and Charges for the City of Fulton's Parks and Recreation Department and establishing an effective date. Let's see, make a motion to place bill number 1744 for second reading at the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Thank
you. Okay, discussion.
Yes,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman?
The previous ordinance that was brought before us was just for the pool fees and the Tanglewood fees. It did not have the facility fee waiving policy included on it, so I would like to, I guess, do we need to have a long discussion about that this evening?
Yep, so actually, we're really fortunate, and Mike, I'm going to call you up as the chair of the park board, and Charlene, I'm going to call you up as well. So these two individuals can kind of give a little bit more discussion as to the recommendation of the park board on that waiving policy, and again, ultimately what their recommendation was.
So I'll kick this off. Charlene McArthur, Parks Superintendent. So the original recommendation from the Park Board was to stand by their original recommendation that the City of Fulton adapt and approve no waiving fees. And then the secondary recommendation was reached to give the council an alternative that they do not approve of if you all do not approve of the original recommendation, a motion was passed to waive 20% of Legends Recplex facility rental fee with proof of an organized 501(c) status. It is clarified that a deposit would still be required and a discount for the facility only and would not apply to the setup or tear down fees.
Mike, do you want to give any kind of clarification, kind of to the discussion that took place and the board overall, how you landed there?
Yes, Mike Schindler on the park board. This was discussed over the last 2 monthly meetings. It was discussed pretty well in depth with a quorum at both meetings. And we felt like it was good to give a couple options. And I also would like to compliment the staff on taking a look at what's taken place in other cities. And this is pretty consistent with cities that are close to us, especially the non-waiver first, I guess, recommendation that the board had. So happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. I will say that there was, Kathy was here earlier, another park board member. There was a lot of discussion amongst the park board. They went back and forth, and I think there was some very good discussion throughout the board meeting, actually. But what you see in front of you is what they have, their final decision was.
Could I get just a little clarification? When you said recommended by other cities, that's the first option where nobody waives fees at all? Is that correct?
So we reached out to local communities surrounding us. In Columbia, Parks and Rec and Jefferson City Parks and Recreation do not waive any type of fees.
For it, nobody?
For any group or organization.
I've got lots of thoughts on this. One, I absolutely respect the park board. I served on the park board. I appreciate all the recommendations. We've placed a lot of pressure on Parks and Rec to make sure that we're bringing in as much income as possible, that we're paying for the Recplex, we're paying for all of our other things. But I do not believe that we should put it into ordinance that we do not have the option as a city council to be able to waive fees. I like the second option, and I would actually like to place the second option as a up to 20%, or I guess shouldn't say up to because then it's discretionary, that any nonprofit that brings in, based on your recommendation, that brings in their 501c, that they can get a 20% discount on Parks and Rec fees, and that can be approved by the superintendent. Doesn't need to come to the council. But I very adamantly do not wish for us to not have the option to waive a fee of some particular group, some particular event, something that's going on that is impactful to this community, that we would want to provide a little bit more support.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I want to kind of jump on that, but I would like to see us create some sort of policy around that. Like, it could be 501c3s, but it could also be events like that 501c3s put on that are open to the community, or if it's a private club or group or something like that, maybe not waive those in some of that regard, because looking at the numbers we waived last year, it's only $3,000. I mean, that's not very much for the organizations that are on there. There's a few that were private, but it really wasn't that much amount of money. And so again, to not have a policy that would allow us to waive those for certain groups or organizations, I think we should give you the leeway to do that.
So when you reference the $3,000, which portion are you referencing?
Where it says amount waived on the chart that I got today.
So for Legends itself, we waive $5,290. For rentals of our shelters and facilities outside is $1,200. And then for Tanglewood, for tournaments, we waive $4,471.
Yeah, it's about 11,000.
Yeah, and I get that, but 5,000 of that was Tanglewood, and we've already kind of addressed that, I think. So that leaves, like, the Legends one says that the amount waived was only $3,090. There is a total on there where we could still set up, I think, charge for the setup or tear down, or kind of have that. It doesn't say that we waive those fees. It does say total, but it doesn't say that we waive those. But also looking at the fees for, you guys probably don't have that, I have it. The facilities, the outdoor facilities, that wasn't very much at all, I didn't think. I think for the amount of stuff that those groups and organizations do for the community, a lot of them that have reserved or gotten fee waivers. I mean, one of them's on there is the Human Rights Commission. I mean, that's part of the city. That's not I don't think that one even be included.
Yeah, this doesn't include city functions.
No, but it's listed as part of that 5,000 that she was mentioning.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. You want to have the right to waive fees only for the Recplex? Or across the board, including Tanglewood?
I think we should have a policy that, like, if it is 501c3s, I think it is appropriate to have a policy that would allow, whether it be us or allow Charlene to be able to do that based on these criteria of, it's like open to, like, it's a policy that has various phases. It's reaching, like, it's a organization that's doing something positive for our community. It is it's an event that's open to the public. Those sorts of things where it's, I'm trying to think of one that's on here. Like CMCA had a housing event on there, and we waived fees for them. They're doing a lot of good in our community, and I think we'd want to support them. So rather than charging them even 80% of the current fees, we could be a sponsor of the event. I mean, there's multiple ways to look at doing that. We could say, okay, we'll waive fees, but we are sponsors of the event in lieu of charging those. I mean, showing our ways of supporting these organizations that are actually doing active good. I mean, there's a few of them on here I think are more private, but overall, I mean, one of them on there was a chamber event, and was that covered under our sponsorship, or was that additional on top of what we've already paid them? I mean, there's lots of little pieces that we could walk backwards through and say, okay, well, these weren't actually us donating, or these were we sponsors? Or are we just assisting in doing the greater good in our community, which I think we have. I mean, even if it was $15,000 across the board of all three, I think that's pretty negligent in the.
You mean negligible?
Negligible, there you go. Negligible in the total amount of money that we're
Yeah.
doing, and the greater good that's happening in the community.
I think the problem is, Alan, it becomes very difficult to differentiate. Is it a fundraiser that some group is doing? I mean, I had an organization, we rented one of the pavilions, and it wasn't a 501c3, and I think it was way 1 year, and this has been many years ago, and I'm like, no, we can pay for that. We don't need to do that. I mean, so it's, how do you draw the line? It makes it very difficult. If it's a, and like you said, some of those that are on there is like kind of, and I haven't seen the list, but what you described, it sounded like they might not fit the category. So we might ask the Parks and Rec to look at this a little closer and refine it a little bit. But right now, I'm kind of leaning, and I have the same feelings. It'd be nice to help our community, but on the other hand, we're also trying to pay the Recplex off. We just paid the golf course off with reserves from the utilities. So it's kind of I'm torn, to be honest.
And that's where I come back with a policy. Like, if you have a policy that says these are the organizations that we waive fees for because they match these criteria. If it's a 501c3, it's open to the public, it's giving back to the public, like CMCA or something like that, where we've partnered with them, or if they're going to give us a sponsorship award for it, if you will, something like that, where there's a greater good happening, and I think we'll see different leadership under Charlene and the park board than maybe what we've seen in the past with some of the fee waivers, and allowing you the opportunity to vet that, whether it be vet it and bring it back to us, or vet it and see what another year holds. Because I think still in the scheme of things, we're not, if you look at everything, if we donated a day's worth of golf at Tanglewood, I mean, that may be a substantial amount of money that we lost. But the other ones, we didn't really lose any money by waiving somebody's fees.
I think that could cause some strife for the Parks and Rec Department if they're the ones that are in charge of choosing, because what if one organization feels like that they're giving back to the community but we don't waive their fee when we're waiving somebody else's? I think that makes it really difficult for the park board and the Parks and Rec Department to have to be in charge of making that decision, because in the eyes of our community, we have to do the same thing across the board, I think, for everybody, because I don't feel like it's fair if we don't. You know, you have to do for one that you're doing for the other. And so I think if we have a blanket policy, I don't think that we can say, well, if you're a 501c3 that meets these criteria and you're helping our community, but maybe you have a 501c3, but you haven't got far enough along, and this is the event that would help the community, but we're not willing to waive that fee because you haven't done that yet. I think that gets really gray.
And
Again, go ahead.
that distinction might be where we really need to beef up the language. And we also, the recommendation that came from the park board wasn't to have any additional qualifiers. It was simply, if they were a 501c3, then they would qualify for the 20%. And that's where if we had a policy that stated that Parks and Rec superintendent or designee could, you know, approve that 20% discount based on, you know, whatever criteria we write that are very prescriptive, then that's done. And then everything else could then be vetted, and at any time, somebody can still come to the council and ask. I think to tie our hands to say that we would not have the ability whatsoever to waive somebody's fees, that they come and request it of us, I think is irresponsible.
What I think I'm hearing is it would be appropriate to go ahead and remove subsection 3 from section 1 of this ordinance so that we can have some additional discussion. I think also we can have perhaps some additional members of the park board maybe attend. And Charlene, I know you have a lot more than what maybe some of the other council members are seeing here tonight as far as what your criteria is in that written policy as well. So we can certainly make sure that we have further discussion with the city council on this and make sure you have all the information in order to make a more informed decision. So my recommendation to the council is to go ahead and remove from section 1, subsection 3, the fee waiving policy so that we can have some additional discussion. Just remove that from this ordinance tonight.
I make a motion to amend bill number 1744 to remove section 1, subsection 3, Parks and Recreation facility waiving policy.
Second.
Okay, I was at the park board meetings, and I think the park board, they discussed this at great length. I personally would like to see it in the hands of the park board and Charlene to make these decisions, because in 25 years, I've never seen this body turn down anybody that walked in that door. Never have. And so, again, we're trying to make money, and we're directing Charlene to try to make more money out there, make it at least close to being profitable, and yet we're going to take money away from her because we aren't going to turn anybody down, I can tell you. They could have a dog show and charge $100 a dog, and we'd let them have it if they come and ask for it. So I think we ought to leave it up to her and the park board. If you want some more clarification on a couple of the issues, we can do that, but I think it totally ought to be up to them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but we have a motion on the floor.
I agree. Do we have any other discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Very well. Now we'll get back to the original motion. Madam Clerk, would you read that for us with the amendment? Madam Director, will you read that for us?
Oh, certainly. So the original motion was to move, thank you so much, Mayor. We're batting 100 here tonight. The original motion was to move this bill to second reading at the next council meeting as amended, which again is with the removal of subsection 3 under section 1. So now what's on the table is for us to move this to second reading as amended at the next council meeting.
Very well. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I didn't speak quick enough. Elsewhere in our rate book, does it talk about the holiday rates at Tanglewood? That was a question I brought up last time, and it doesn't seem to have been clarified.
So not to my knowledge, we will double check into that. I will make sure that we double check it prior to the next meeting.
Okay.
I know we discussed it last time, and to my knowledge, I thought Kathy had made the modification.
There was discussion in the email that you shared, but not in the actual ordinance draft. So
Okay.
right now, if this is the only place where that is talked about in the rate book, then we do not have a holiday rate that we've removed holiday completely from subsection 2.
Okay, we'll discuss that with the city clerk and make sure clarification's given.
Okay, thank you.
I think that was corrected, but maybe not. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Bill 1744 as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very well, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to Bill number 1745. Councilwoman Nelson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bill number 1745, Schedule of Fees and Charges, Rate Book Amended, Airport. An ordinance amending the 2025 Schedule of Fees and Charges for the City of Fulton's Airport and establishing an effective date. Make a motion we place Bill number 1745 for second reading at the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, it looks like the existing ground lease is actually a 20% increase rather than 10%. And, you know, and honestly, after listening to Mr. Huey and, oh, sorry.
It's not selected.
Mine is. Anyway, you know, basically, he's built the building there, and we've got the ground. You know, we're making an increase on the ground, right? Is that basically what we're doing there? Okay.
Those leases will be negotiated.
Yeah. Personally, I think we should remove the existing ground lease increase off of this. I'll make a motion to that effect.
Councilman West, I agree with you on that piece of topic as well. If you recall from the last meeting, that was discussed to be removed. I'm sorry I didn't catch that before now. If you've seen your notes too, that commercial and individual leases will be handled separately as a per agreement basis. So
yeah.
I think removing that piece about ground leases is appropriate.
And I really think that's appropriate. I mean, we want to encourage, in my mind, we should encourage building of more hangars using that process. So we need to, probably for the length of the lease.
We hope
I'm
to.
not sure. Yeah. So.
Okay, we have amendment on the floor. Everybody understand that?
Yes.
What we're doing there?
Yeah.
Second.
I thought Bill said, didn't you second it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bill seconded it. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, we have a second already. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
This was.
Thank you.
To remove the.
Now we'll get back to the original motion with the amendment. Discussion on that.
My other recommendation for amendment is to change the 10% rate increase to 5%. And for especially those that are listening, here's some of my reasonings. So why 5%? It's been mentioned utilities have gone up, salaries have gone up, just cost overall have gone up. So trying to at least break even, 5% seems appropriate to justify those additional costs. Why not more? Economic benefits, We've seen in the rate book that's 13 years old that there's a $2 million plus economic benefit. Again, it's hard to see that, but I know some people spoke to some of the benefits in the economy earlier tonight. Operations at the airport. So a lot of optimism of the airport. There's a lot of potential out there through ground leases, through hangars, through extended runways, through jet fuel. Operations out at the airport have doubled in the last couple of years. So a lot more potential for FAA monies. So some of the suggestions, 5%, 10%, 20%, it's not going to cover the depreciation piece that we speak of. So it will take investment by the city to be profitable, but I think everyone in this room knows that that's a very good possibility through hangars, through jet fuel, through and some investment, right? And unfortunately, like some of the business owners in here, it does take money, invested money to make money. And there's definitely a lot of potential there. So 5%, try to cover some of the salary costs, the utility rate increases, but yes, still try to keep it attractive to help promote, really just building that airport and making it what it can be and what we all think and believe it can be. So, and I heard some comments on the last one, greater good for the community. It may not be completely used by every citizen out here. A lot of businesses use it, the colleges use it, the companies use it. It's impacting the community. Even though citizens, all of us citizens may not be out there fully utilizing it, it does bring economic benefits. So that's the reason why I suggest the 5%.
So are you making that an amendment to the original motion?
That's correct. So make a motion to amend the 10% down to 5%.
I'll second that. And I'll just add to that, the second on that is we've made a lot of progress over probably the last year, forward movement, probably more than we have in the first 3 years I've been on the council. I think we are going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to find things that need to be fixed. But I'd rather see us take this step by step rather than jump way ahead and correct maybe some issues that we've had in the past or some places where we haven't done the right things in the past. And just continue to take it step by step, make the incremental one this year, see what the next year holds. And then I think, as it was mentioned before, reevaluate at the end of the year and go from there. If we jump up 10%, 20%, we can't go backwards. That'll never happen. We won't ever approve that. Just like utilities will never go down. It's just part of it. But if we can move forward, maybe a little bit slower than fast, we can actually figure out where our problems are rather than just trying to prevent what we think is going on. We have a lot to learn.
Okay, we have an amendment on the floor. All in favor? Jeff, you have something?
Just going to add to that a little bit. And again, going with the 5%, one, it does match our language of what we would be looking at going forward. And no, the CPI increase is not guaranteed. It gives us a limit of what we're able to do. It does not mean that every year we will increase. It's across all of our rate book. But personally, I have learned more in the last 2 to 3 weeks about the financials of the airport than I have the last 8 years that I've been on the council. And I think we've got a lot more to learn as a council about the financials of the airport and the impact and where the money comes from, where the money goes, what we really want to cover in terms of operating costs based on our operating revenues versus what we're going to cover other ways or through additional businesses, additional ground leases, all of that. And I just feel that, even today, we learned a significant piece of information about the finances of the airport. And so I feel like the most we should do it right now is 5% and then spend the next 9 months learning more and more. Well, actually, Dustin's going to have us probably a budget draft by August, so we'll spend the next 6 months learning more and more about it. And if we get to August and we all have a very good understanding of the financials, and we have, as a city, decided what we are going to support, what we are going to supplement, what we are going to ask of our tenants and our businesses, then we'll have something very prescriptive to give to the public.
Okay, Councilman Henshey, do you have something?
Yes, I do. So, 5% would be a 0.83 for the years per year. 10% would be 1.6%. I'm not sure if, based on talking to people, if there's really anybody out there that rents property that have maintained a 1.6 or less % cost increase on their properties. So based on how the cost of living is going up and whatnot, is this a wise decision to bring it down to 5%? That's my question.
I feel like that as we're talking about this and as we're looking at rate increases that we have expedited this year, we have asked our citizens to pay more across the board. And I appreciate all of you guys coming out, and I appreciate your feedback, and I see the value in the board, and I understand that the communication needs to happen. I feel like that the 10% is appropriate. When Kyle sat down and he looked at these numbers, he did the research, and he presented 20%. And that number had to be for a reason. He doesn't just pull those numbers out for no reason. He does the research, he does the work it takes, and I understand that we're all sitting here and we feel like that 20% is too much. We don't feel like that that's fair. We haven't had a rate increase since 2019, is that correct? Since 2019, and I feel like that a 10% increase based off of those numbers and based off of the increases that we have put forward amongst every other citizen that resides in Fulton, it is fair. Again, we have asked people to increase their rates on utilities. The cost of living is going up, the cost of groceries is going up, and that affects every single person that resides in our community. And I just don't feel like that the 10% that we're asking is unrealistic, especially based off of the numbers that Kyle presented at the beginning. And I think, again, he did the research, he did listen, and we just didn't feel like that was quite fair to everybody else. And so that's why we settled on the 10%. And I feel like that the 10% is fair.
Just one additional comment. The administration spent a lot of time going through the rate book the last year, and we had many other things that we had not raised the rates on in many years either. But we didn't take necessarily a 10% increase on those fees either. So I'm just trying to kind of bookend, if we talk about, well, we haven't had a rate increase in 6 years, so 10%'s good. There were many things that we didn't raise the rates on. And it had been 20 years since we had had a rate increase.
I'll just jump on that real quick. Yeah, we have increased other rates, but they've all been incremental year over year versus one time. We didn't increase utility rates 10%. If we think the rates really need to be increased this year from 2019, or they should have been increased along with everything else, then that's on us that we didn't do that. So just coming in and saying, hey, we're going to jump 10% or 20%, it's like, well, why didn't we look at that before if it was really an issue? We have to kind of own a piece of that. We can't just pass that on to whoever else and say, hey, we messed up. Now you're going to have to deal with this. It's, okay, well, maybe we did. Maybe we're learning. Maybe they're fine. But some of those things, people spent a lot of time planning out those rates to make the incremental little change. and we're trying to make big changes over, like Jeff said earlier, like just learning a lot in 3 weeks.
We're not prorating this, we're just increasing it, so we are owning up to it.
I think
And
that,
you're incorrect on the utilities. We did do a large increase to try to make up for some of those huge expenditures in order to form a backing, a financial backing. We did the then incremental increase. So I think that you need to go back and you need to look at last year, because we did have to do a large increase and then we implemented the small incremental increases that are established.
I think we've not, and Dustin, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've had raises on all of our enterprise funds, I believe. In the airport, it's certainly an enterprise fund. Just the rates in general. We've raised on all of our enterprise funds, I believe.
I believe so, yeah. What's that? Yes. I guess
Utilities, golf
solid
course,
waste, did we raise solid waste?
Well, that's something.
Tanglewood, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mr. Mayor. So
We have a
I'm
a
sorry.
motion on the floor.
Well, I have one more discussion point.
Okay.
We have this email from Matt Gowan, 1821 Ashley Court. I'd like to have that entered into the record as comments from visitors on this subject. Making the case for the citizens, basically, that, everybody else has gotten rate increases. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, didn't you read it? But
Well, one thing, if we're talking about enterprise funds and money versus rates and all that sort of stuff, recycling I don't think has actually gone up in a little while. And last time I looked, it cost a lot more to recycle than it did for trash. So if you're looking about subsidizing, those that are throwing trash away are basically subsidizing those that are recycling. There's lots of reasons we do things that are for the greater good than simply the right financial apples to apples. Like this, trash is covering trash and recycle covers recycle. I mean, if recycle covered recycle, nobody would recycle because it'd be too expensive.
correct. And I have issues with that too. I mean, I recycle. I would like to see more people recycle, and I would like to see more market for that. That's where the problem is. We don't have a market for it. The other thing I'd like to say is, we've got these pictures of hangar number 10 that, I don't know, pictures probably don't do it justice, but, we want to have, right now, we're just trying to get it to break even. And if we want to make any improvements to any of these facilities, which we probably as landlords should do, we have to have the money to do that. So how much do we want to subsidize that? Okay, we just had some matching funds last meeting to fix drainage and that sort of thing out the airport. And I think there's a lot more needs, and we've probably neglected it over the years. So one thing I'd like as a commitment from all of us and, city staff is that we're going to work to improve it as part of what we're doing. And that's not a vote, it's just what I think is the right thing to do.
I would love to see it expand, and
Yeah.
I would love to talk about the jet fuel. I think that sounds like an awesome entity. And I want to have the money to match these grants in order to make that happen. I think that is so important. I do think it's an asset to our community. I think it's important that we have it, especially for businesses and people looking at our community to establish new businesses and come here. But I think that we have to have some sort of, we have to be able to afford to do it. I mean, that's the fact. We have to be able to have the money to put into it in order to make these projects happen. Because I think that all of us are in the same position here, that we want to see it grow, we want to see it be successful, and we want it to be impactful for our community.
Well, I think you're certainly right. I think we all agree on that. It's just how we get there. And so I know we've got a grant now we've applied for. And I think it's around 300,000. And so our match is going to be 10%, 330,000. And our match is going to be 10%. And so we're going to have to subsidize that to get that grant. And I know, Andy, you were talking about $6 million. Well, that's 10% has to come from the city.
The intent of depreciation on the books is so that you set aside money for improvements. You say that, okay, our assets have gotten to an age and this is what it's going to cost us. Well, the financials that we received last week showed that we had, while we didn't have the 190, we did have 61. And so that 61,000 that was above and beyond the operating expenses did not cover the 190 in depreciation, but that's what that 60,000 would go towards. So if you're saying we've got a $33,000, expense that's coming for the grant match, it's going to be covered by the 60,000. And then as we go forward and we identify the depreciation, then we're able to identify the remainder of the costs.
I would just
Am
say.
I quoting correct?
Well, I think you're probably looking at the operating budget, probably. So I think it's going to be a little different because that's more on a cash basis versus the accrual basis, which is what we present in the audited financials. So I'm not sure if, so I guess that's something to think about. When you're talking about depreciation, you could expense that all in 1 year, or what we do in full accrual, we break that out over the life of the asset. Right. So, yeah. Okay. Yes. But I was just saying, I guess we had I won't say a surplus. We had net income on our operating expenses and our operating revenue, which we needed to put towards the depreciation expense in our budget. But when you have that money, if we had had $190,000 to expense out of the airport's budget, the intent is for that money to be available so that you can do the matches, so that you can pay to improve an asset, so that you can put money back into Hangar 10. You can do those things. Well, I guess
saying functionally, that's what you do with the depreciation expense money.
Yeah, it's either that or on the cash basis, you would expense it all in that year.
Right.
So, yeah.
Which we don't want to do.
No, no, that's
Very,
right.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion to amend on the floor. Could you read that back, the motion? Or you want to restate it, Brad?
The amended motion, second amended motion, was to revise the rates from 10% down to 5% on the rate book list that was attached.
Okay. And we had a second from Alan, I believe, didn't you? Okay. All right, all in favor of reducing the cost down to 5%, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Nay?
Would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Henchy,
No.
Mr. Luther,
Yes.
Miss Nelson. No. Miss Reclue,
No.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Washington, Mr. West,
Yes.
Mr. Combs.
Yes.
4 affirmative, 3 negative. Amendment passes.
You have to have 5 to pass.
It passes.
I thought we had to have 5.
We have to have 5.
You got 5?
No.
We have to have 5, we have 4.
Yeah. So it
The
doesn't,
amendment fails, so now we vote on the 10% increase, right?
yeah. Okay, do we have any further discussion on the original motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the original motion, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Opposed?
I think Mr.
Which motion, is this the amended motion, is this the 10% with the amendment, where are we at?
Yeah, we're at the 10% motion.
With the,
With the amendment.
That was seconded.
with the
already.
ground lease.
With the ground lease taken out.
Yeah, it was taken out. Okay, would you do a roll call vote on that, please?
Mr. Luther,
No.
Miss Nelson,
Yes.
Miss Reclue,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Reluctantly, I vote yes, so that we can move this along.
Mr. Washington, Mr. West,
Yes.
Mr. Combs,
No.
Mr. Henchy.
Yes.
5 affirmative, 2 negative, amendment passes. Or to the next reading.
The second reading.
The second reading.
Which we should, based on the information we've received in the last 2 weeks, we will be very educated in 2 more weeks. Actually, it's gonna be in 4 more weeks.
It's 4 weeks, we don't have the next meeting.
Because we don't have a meeting in March, on March the 10th or 11th. So we'll have a month to learn even more for second reading.
Okay, Councilman Henchy, would you read bill number 1742, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Bill number 1745.
40,
Oops, sorry.
am I on the wrong one?
I'm on the, no, that's my fault. I'll get it here. I got it right here. Sorry about that. Bill number 1742, amend and update the city code provisions. An ordinance repealing section of Chapter 2, Article 4, Section Division 1 of the Fulton City Code, updating residency requirement and property transfer procedure, and enacting new legislation in lieu of thereof. I make a motion to place bill number 1742 to the third reading at this council meeting.
Second.
Very well. Do we have discussion on this?
Madam DOA, can you explain the changes?
Absolutely. So a couple meetings ago, when this was first introduced, we talked about kind of cleaning up some of this old, I'm sorry, not ballot language, but charter and code language. So particularly around the requirements of property transfer. So currently it says that when one person leaves the employ of the city of Fulton, they're responsible for handing that property off to a new employee. So we've had some situations, obviously, with security and some instances that have proven that to be difficult. We have procedures already in place that don't conform with these code requirements. So this specific language is to clean those up and make sure that we're adhering with our security.
We'll transfer the property back to the city, and then the city will
We'll disperse it.
disperse it to
Correct.
the appropriate person. Under qualifications, it speaks to all officers elected or appointed to offices under city government. Are those just referring to our elected positions, or are there additional positions where would fall under officer?
So to clarify, and you're speaking more along the residency area there, is that?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Section 2, 157, qualifications.
Yeah.
I just asking for clarification on the language, appointed to offices. What would that be?
Correct. So specifically, we have had instances where there have been issues with elected officials as well, adhering to some of these terms. However, when we're talking about residency requirements, those are already addressed in our city charter and also by state law. So it does not apply to elected officials in regards to the city council, prosecuting attorney, and mayor. Does that clarify?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It says all officers elected or appointed to offices under the city government. If it's not elected, what would be an example of an office, someone appointed to an office within city government?
So that would be your department heads, primarily department heads and the director of administration. I apologize, I misunderstood.
Thank you. That was just the clarification. I was trying to understand
That's
who we
okay.
were creating this for.
So my question is, why do we have the elected in here if it's covered elsewhere?
So again, it's
That's the one I had confusion on.
Yep, now I'm on. Again, we're doing too much. So, again, it's in here, even though elected office is clarified in the city charter specifically, we do still cover it in this specific ordinance because we have to still talk about property transfer requirements. We did have a specific instance, I'm not going to go into it tonight, but where one elected official, there were some issues with getting some of that property back and then turning it into the city clerk and getting it to the new office holder. So that is why it's still mentioned in this specific code, but that the residency part is still covered by city charter.
Say the city would issue the city council person a laptop.
Sure.
And then they go off the council for whatever reason. They need to return that.
Correct.
Yes.
To the city, and then we'll disperse it from there.
That's up to the
Right.
city.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay, Councilman Hinchin, do you have a question? Okay. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, all in favor of bill number 1742 to move it on to second reading, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, this is for tonight.
Third reading.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Councilman Hinchin, you want to read that again for us, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bill number 1742, amend and update the city code provisions. An ordinance repealing section of Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 1 in the Fulton City Code, updating residency requirements and property transfer procedures and enacting new legislation in lieu thereof. I make a motion to place bill number 1742 for final passage at this council meeting.
Second.
Very well, we've had discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please, on that?
Miss Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Klug,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Washington, Mr. West,
Yes.
Mr. Combs,
Yes.
Mr. Hinchy,
Yes.
Mr. Luther.
Yes.
7 affirmative, 1 absent, motion passed.
Very good. Thank you all. Okay, we'll move on to announcements, and I also want to remind everyone, if you haven't already, you need to turn your information in to the Missouri Ethics Commission, I think, by
By May 1st.
May 1st?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we don't want to forget that.
Yep. They'll be home.
All right, the announcements also, we will not have a council meeting on May the 11th. Our next meeting will be March the 11th. Our next meeting will be March the 25th at 6:30. I'll
Mr. Mayor,
entertain
if I
a
can do a shameless plug.
Me too.
The Fulton Kiwanis Club is hosting Stan Adams and David Hosenfeld. They are 2 Vietnam veterans. They were with the Manchu Regiment. Stan Adams is the one who wrote the book From Mocaine to Mole City. And then there was also a documentary that was a huge production put on at William Woods last year. And these 2 Vietnam veterans will be speaking to the Kiwanis Club this Thursday at noon at Ohana's. And all are invited to hear of their stories. It's just absolutely amazing that 2 people from Fulton ended up in that one regiment, and then the work that regiment did and the losses that they incurred are amazing.
It's a riveting book. I mean, there's parts of it that just like make you really pull back. My shameless plug is Lent starts next Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, and St. Peter's is having fish fries on the 4th, wait a minute. I'll get this right, the 7th, the 21st, and then there's 2 in April. So that's the March ones anyway, so shameless plug, but come out and have some good meal.
And there'll be signs to remind the public of that too.
Bill, are you cooking this year?
Yes, I am.
He cuts fish.
I saw you sweat last year.
Yeah, he does eat it.
Okay, very good. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all tonight.
Putting up with this.
Mr.
It
Mayor, I
helps-
know we've already
Helped
adjourned,
tremendously.
but I did, Courtney helped me find the language in the Tanglewood that addressed city holidays. So it was addressed.
I thought it was.
Yep, she helped me find it.